Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
And I'm Brittany Pacheco, and we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to a special reaction version of the Watchers in the Basement. Brittany, usually we talk about Marvel, the MCU, Game of Thrones. We talk about The Last of Us lately.
Yep.
But today, DC, which I was a DC Comics fan as a kid. I like the characters. They had some big news. Some big news about their new rebooted universe. We now know that the first chapter in the DCU is called Gods and Monsters, right? How excited are you? Before I mention what they announced, how excited are you about this news?
Couldn't care less.
Couldn't care less. So
that's just being straight honest.
Okay, fair.
I think it's interesting. Of course, you bring in someone who, James Gunn is who I'm referring to, who's a co-CEO of now the DC Studios.
Studios, yep.
Right. So now this universe is called DCU. Very similar to the MCU. Yep. James Gunn has directed Guardians of the Galaxy for the MCU. Now he's over here doing his thing for DCU. Cool. Maybe they can, get their act together. But can I just comment how they're using the name chapter 1 as opposed to, let's say, phases? It's like, okay, well, how can we be like Marvel but not be Marvel, right?
No, I think it's a good way to differentiate themselves. I like it.
I get that. I get that. It's just, you can't help but compare. I mean, he came from the MCU. Yeah. Now he's over here doing his thing. Yeah. And yes, chapter 1 is quote unquote Gods and Monsters.
Gods and Monsters. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and you mentioned James Gunn. He's also done some work for DC the past few years. He directed the Suicide Squad, which came out in 2021. And he also was the creative force behind the Peacemaker series. He wrote, I think, directed all the episodes. So that was actually a really good series. I enjoyed the Suicide Squad movie also. Mm-hmm. But let's get to today's news. So they finally, James Gunn and Peter Safran have been co-CEOs of DC Studios for about 3 months now.
Yep.
And James Gunn has been saying on Twitter and other social media platforms that they were going to make an announcement about their first, their first slate of movies and shows in January. And so he laid it to the last day in January to drop this on us. So, like we said, it's titled Gods and Monsters. That's the chapter 1. There's going to be 10 projects that they're starting out with. There might be more in chapter 1. They didn't say it was the end of chapter 1, but they announced 10 projects. You have 5 movies and 5 TV series. So before we mention those, I also want to mention he announced that they are going to have like an Elseworld section of their DC movie universe. So movies like Matt Reeves' The Batman and The Batman Part 2, which we found out is now going to be coming out on October 5th, 2025. That movie will exist in this separate universe. It won't be a part of the DCU. Neither will Todd Phillips' Joker movies. So the Joker sequel, which I think is coming out in 2024, or maybe it's also in 2025.
I think it's 2024.
It's 2024. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So
so let's not touch those.
No, they're not going to.
James Gunn.
No, they're separate.
Ever. Don't even consider it because
they're
those are like good on their own. You don't
totally separate. Yeah, they're separate.
Just like let's not even try to bring them into the fold, like ever.
Exactly. But that's cool. Like at least we know for sure. Like we're not going to see Robert Pattinson's Batman in this DCU. Now they did say the DCU is a multiverse, but they're focusing on one universe within the multiverse. So I did like that clarification, but there's some other stuff that is going to be, they're going to need to clarify, or, things are going to have to change, or it's going to be kind of weird. For example, there's a TV series called Waller, which is going to star, it's based on the character Amanda Waller, who is in charge of the Suicide Squad. And Viola Davis is going to return in that role. Now she's played that character multiple times, be it in the first Suicide Squad movie. She played the character in Peacemaker. She was the character even in the end credit scene in Black Adam for 5 seconds. So that's kind of weird because she's obviously a part of the DCEU, but she's going to, roll over to this new universe. And also, according to a story about this news from Variety today, both Gunn and Safran left the door open for actors like Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa, who plays Aquaman, Ezra Miller as the Flash, and Zachary Levi as Shazam. They could also possibly continue in this new universe, which is very strange. To me, I thought it was going to be like a full on reboot, but it turns out all they're rebooting is Superman. Henry Cavill is out, and Ben Affleck is not returning, although he will be in The Flash this summer because there's, two other Batman in the I mean, two Batman in the movie counting Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck. I know it's kind of confusing, but so it's weird. It just Henry Cavill is like for sure out, and everyone else might still have a chance, which is strange.
The inconsistency is what really bothers me. I mean, you have Henry Cavill who's out as Superman. You have Dwayne Johnson who's out as Black Adam. I mean, maybe in the future we'll see Black Adam and Dwayne return. Who knows? But the definite of cutting ties with Henry Cavill floors me, absolutely floors me. But then you're going to leave the door open for these other actors, because there was also rumors about how Jason Momoa may still be in this universe, but not be Aquaman. He could be a completely other character whom he resembles. The Ezra Miller thing really floors me even more so, just because of the legal troubles that Miller has been a part of recently. And the fact that we still haven't fired Amber Heard from anything. Okay, that's a separate pod for a separate day. But just the inconsistency is what really concerns me. And why are you going to cut ties with one or two, but not everyone else, and not do a complete reboot? Because thinking about it now, a reboot is probably the smartest strategy to go about recreating this whole universe.
It's the cleanest, it's the easiest way, to just start over, hit the reset button on the video game and start over. So I can address a couple of things. So Amber Heard, she still is in the Aquaman sequel, which comes out Christmas Day. I don't think she's a big part in the movie, but she is in the movie.
Doesn't matter. She shouldn't be in it.
Ezra Miller, you're right, has had all kinds of legal issues. But the one thing about his movie is that supposedly this movie is great. Right. I'm sorry, Ezra Miller. The movie for that character is apparently phenomenal. And that's also the character who can kind of reset the universe within this movie universe because of traveling back and forth through time.
Okay.
As far as Jason Momoa, on DC's website, they kind of shut down the rumors that he won't be playing Aquaman and Lobo. He'll be playing one or the other. It sounds like he'll be playing Aquaman, obviously, in the movie that's already coming out Christmas. And then he'll transition to this new character in the new universe. That's my guess.
That just doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean,
like, if you're gonna use this whole multiverse thing, then sure, okay, fine. But like, that's taking directly from the MCU. Like, are we incapable of coming up with an original idea to make sense of things?
I mean, the multiverse, I think DC came up with the multiverse first. So like the multiverse is not exclusive to Marvel, but
I'm just saying,
in fact, a lot of stuff is not
the timing of all of this, because now we're in the multiverse saga of the MCU. We've left the Infinity Saga behind. Now we're going into the multiverse. So it's just like timing is just really is it coincidental or is it intentional? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
I got you.
I have no faith in DC whatsoever.
So, and the thing with Henry Cavill, what's weird about Henry Cavill, I know they want to do more Superman stuff, but like in both the Snyder Cut and the other version of Justice League, they killed off Clark Kent in Batman v Superman. So like, that's kind of a weird sticking point. I don't think that's the sole reason why he's not going to be the actor anymore. I think they obviously want to have a younger person play Superman, but it is kind of it is strange that he's like for sure the one person who's like kicked out of the Justice League as far as going forward. Yeah.
And not only that, Justin, and I'm going to kind of segue into talking about the first like big movie that they're going to do.
Yeah.
You get rid of Superman. And what is your first installment?
Superman Legacy, which is set to open July 11th, 2025. So Superman Legacy was the only thing they gave us a date for. Well, also the Batman 2, but the Batman 2 is not a part of the DCU. Yeah. So Superman Legacy, which I really like the title, it's going to be the official start of the DCU. James Gunn is writing the movie. It sounds like he's going to direct the movie. No directors have been attached to any of these projects, although they say that some of them are in the works and could be announced very soon. So Superman Legacy, that's the first movie. I like the title. I'm interested to see who plays Superman. I think that'll be a huge day once that's announced. It's interesting.
I need it to make sense. Like, I need it to make sense. Like, you get
Yeah.
rid of your Superman and you're going to kick off this whole universe with a Superman movie. What the heck?
So James Gunn released like a 5-minute video on social media explaining this new slate. And he even mentioned the Flash movie, which comes out in June, does reset the universe. So in theory, you could have characters who are in the current DCEU, because of what happens in the Flash movie, be separate from the characters who are not going to go forward. You know what I'm saying? So
multiverse.
Yeah, the multiverse. So that might be their way around it.
Sure.
It would make a lot more sense though if the Flash was the last movie coming out instead of Aquaman.
Yes.
But I don't know. They've moved stuff around a bunch. They've just kind of got to stick with it and go forward.
It's ridiculous.
So the second movie they announced is called The Authority, which I was not familiar with at all. The Authority are characters from Wildstorm, which is another comic book company that DC acquired in the 90s. And this sounds like The Boys. It says it's a ensemble movie about superhumans who have less than idealistic approach to saving the world. So they are not necessarily villains, but they do things by any means necessary, which obviously is their superpower. So that sounds like a cool idea. I can definitely see the Authority fighting Superman because obviously they're superpowered, and of course he is too. So I can see that being a logical kind of somewhere down the road movie. The third movie is called The Brave and the Bold, which will introduce us to the DC's version of Batman, which will not be Robert Pattinson. It won't be Ben Affleck. It'll be a new person they're going to cast. And it's going to include a Robin. But it's not going to be Dick Grayson Robin. It's not going to be Jason Todd Robin.
Nope.
It's going to be Damian Wayne, which is his son with Talia. You know, Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul's son is Damian Wayne. He's raised by the League of Assassins. Or is it League of Shadows? League of Assassins, yeah. League of Shadows was from The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. I'm sure my friend James, shout out to James out here, who named his son Damian because Batman named his son Damian. So I'm sure he's thrilled with, that news.
Yeah. So we're going to get Batman and Robin, and we're going to get the entire Bat family, which that means Nightwing, which is what Dick Grayson becomes. That means probably Jason Todd as Red Hood. So I'm excited about that part of it. But the part that's kind of puzzling about this Batman movie is by having it be Batman is the father of Damian, obviously, and he's already had several Robins, he's going to be an older Batman, which is the same thing that happened in the DCEU. In the DCEU, you had Ben Affleck, who obviously is an older person, but he portrayed an older Batman, a Batman in his mid 40s or so.
Right.
And it sounds like they're going to do the same thing with this Batman. So that's kind of a puzzling decision. But I guess the reason why is because Robert Pattinson is playing the young Batman in his second or third year.
Right.
And so I guess they want to kind of, they
Still
don't want to
keep
be
it
on the
separate.
same turf. Yeah. So I guess it makes sense, but on the outset, it's kind of a weird decision. The fourth movie is going to be called Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which that'll be interesting because there's a Supergirl that's going to be introduced in The Flash, and I don't think that Supergirl is going to be the Supergirl in this movie. But I don't know, and no one confirmed it or denied it, so we'll see.
Such a mess.
Yeah. And the final movie, I'm actually excited about the final movie. It's a movie about Swamp Thing. So there was a Swamp Thing movie in the early 80s that I was actually
Swamp Thing was in my pool at the complex not that long ago. I have a picture of it.
There was a very short-lived Swamp Thing movie on the CW a couple years ago that it came out and they canceled it after the first episode, which and I never watched it, but apparently people said it was actually a pretty good show. So
interesting.
Anyway, so that's the 5 movies. The 5 TV shows, which will all be on HBO Max or will be whatever HBO Max is called in the future. The first one is I've never heard of. It's called Creature Commandos, which is an animated series that James Gunn has written every episode. The show is already in production. It's kind of like a Suicide Squad, but with creatures. The one interesting thing about this, Brittany, is this animated show is gonna the DCU is going to include movies, film, gaming, and animation. So the characters, so you're going to see animated characters who are voiced by the same actors in animation also transitioned to live action. So
it's kind of like a what if.
Kind of like
So,
what
I mean,
if.
we
Yeah.
didn't get all of the voice
No.
actors,
Right.
but we got a good amount. You know.
Right. So,
we
but
got
yeah,
a good
that's a good comparison with what if. Yeah.
Mhm.
The next thing is Waller, which I mentioned before, is about Amanda Waller, which is going to be supposedly set between Peacemaker season 1 and Peacemaker season 2. So that means Peacemaker season 2, I guess, is going to be delayed for a couple of years, because some of the characters who are in Peacemaker are going to appear in this Waller show. The next thing is Lanterns, which is a Green Lanterns Corps show. Go ahead.
No, it's just I never watched Green Lantern.
The movie?
No, I never watched it.
Okay.
Nor do I ever intend to, just because of the awful reviews that it received, and even Ryan Reynolds just making fun of it in Deadpool as well.
Yeah.
So to the idea that they're going to try to create a show called Lanterns and it kind of revolve around Green Lanterns, and I know there's more than one, right? So
there's many, yeah. Right.
So it's just like,
right.
Oh boy, how well is that going to go over?
So Ryan Reynolds, he played Hal Jordan. That was his character in the movie. So that Green Lantern will actually be represented in the show, along with Jon Stewart, who is also a popular Green Lantern, who was in one of the animated series. He's been mentioned. He was supposedly going to be in the Snyder Cut, but that got cut.
Is he going to be played by Jon Stewart?
No, not the Jon Stewart comedian.
I know what you're talking about.
That would be phenomenal. No,
that'd be great.
No, this Green Lantern show has been in the works for a while, and it was actually in the works by the same people that produced a lot of the Arrowverse shows that are on the CW. But this is going to be a completely different show. So they scrapped the other idea, which was in the works for 3 years, and now they're going to this one. I think it'll actually be a pretty good show. The next thing is a show called Paradise Lost, which is a kind of a Wonder Woman prequel series. I don't think we're going to see Wonder Woman in the show.
Mm-mm.
It's described as a Game of Thrones-ish story set on the island of Themyscira.
Yeah.
Before the birth of Diana. So
okay.
Yeah. So
that might be the one show I'll attempt to watch, just because the fact that out of what we have from DC, Wonder Woman's probably just my favorite movie from DC, and I really enjoyed Gal Gadot being Diana Prince and Wonder Woman, of course. And so and if it's a Game of Thrones like esque type show, I mean, don't tease me, James Gunn. Don't tease me. I mean, it better be bloody.
With a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't tempt me with a good time. It better be bloody. It better have the Cessies, because they're all women. But it's they better. I mean, if you're gonna call it Game of Thrones, like, it better live up to Game of Thrones. Just saying. Like,
well, Game of Thrones ish. So we'll see.
Just don't even use the reference if it's not even going to be anything like it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
use it because obviously
live up to it.
It's also a Warner Brothers Discovery property. So,
that's fair.
And it's very popular. So
it is.
I understand that. So the final thing is going to be a series called Booster Gold. Now, this is a character that I wouldn't say I'm hugely familiar with, but I know what the character looks like. I know a little bit of the backstory.
Never heard of her.
Let me just let you know, Booster Gold is a 25th century guy. He's a former disgraced football star who uses a time machine that is on display at Metropolis Space Museum, and he goes back in time to be a superhero. So he's kind of presented as this loser in the future who finds a way to go back in time and become a superhero, basically just to make himself feel good. So it's being shopped, or it's being mentioned as a comedy. So I can definitely there's been some rumors that this may be where we see Chris Pratt, if he's a part of the DCU.
Oh,
he could potentially play this character. I'm not sure if he'll want to do a TV series, although he did one for Amazon, so who knows. But I'm looking forward to that, because also Booster Gold is he teams up with Blue Beetle, which there's a Blue Beetle movie coming up in later this year. So that'll be interesting.
I wonder how the whole Chris Pratt thing would work out, because I think when you're with one franchise like Marvel, I don't think you can cross over to the other unless you're completely done with your contract. So,
well, he might be after Guardians 3.
I mean, we know for sure Dave Bautista's out after Guardians 3, so I'm just curious about the fate of Peter Quill and
Yeah. Well,
and
I
whatnot.
mean,
So
there are people that have done both. I don't know if at the same time necessarily,
you
but
have to be done with one before the other,
yeah,
because there was one Hydra agent that we saw in Captain America that when his character was finally killed off, he went over to DC to be at I think it was Suicide Squad. So you have to be done with one before you can move on to the other. So at least that's just my
okay.
understanding.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it turns out. So that's the slate. Brittany,
Yep.
real quick before we go, is there anything that those 10 things that excite you, or like, I know you're not a DC fan, but is there like the Themyscira thing? I think you said you want to watch that. Is there anything else that stands out?
I not particularly. I mean, and this is just because of what we've been given with DC already. I have very few there's been very few installments from DC that I've actually liked and really cared about. I'm just happy that they're keeping Joker and the Batman separate from this new kind of reboot. I don't even know if you want to call it a reboot, this new chapter.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I'm not really excited, even with the Wonder Woman thing, the show. I'll check it out when the time comes. But who knows? Maybe James Gunn and Peter Safran will change my mind. But for right now, it's just kind of like, eh.
Yeah. No, I understand. So for me, it's all about Superman, the Superman Legacy movie. I want to see who they cast.
I mean, check out your shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the Henry Cavill Superman logo.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm a huge Superman fan. So hopefully they get that right. And I think that this slate, if I would best way to describe it, it's a very James Gunn slate. It's a very like, he's got the big character Superman, but then he's got kind of these characters that a lot of us have never heard of and very strange characters. So I'm excited for it because I'm excited for all this stuff.
Yeah.
But if they don't nail Superman, it'll be a
downhill.
bad start.
Downhill.
It'll be a tough start. Yeah. So anyway, now that you know what we think about it, let us know what you think in the comments below or on social media. And Brittany, how can people find us on social media?
Simply go to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, search at Watcher's Basement. You can also use that same Watcher's Basement, but as a hashtag to help grow our audience. You can tweet at us, send us articles, memes, that kind of thing. And like Justin said, let us know your thoughts on the news from DC, from James Gunn, and this new chapter. And lastly, we also have audio podcasts available to you on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Thanks to Anchor.fm. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating.
Thank you, Brittany. So for Brittany, this is Justin saying we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.